When flying and filming these reviews, it's always good to go into it with low expectations. That way you're not going to be too disappointed. But to be honest, I have pretty high ones for today's trip. You see, right now I'm in Amsterdam, one of my favourite cities and favourite airports here at Schiphol. I'm heading down to Dubai, one of my favourite places to visit, and I'll be flying on board KLM, one of my favourite airlines. So my expectations are pretty high. Welcome to Blake Edgington Airborne. Let's get going.
As I'd just flown into Amsterdam with KLM on their 737, which you can see the review of on this channel, I decided that despite having time for a quick trip into the city, I'd stay at the airport. I used one of the many machines throughout the terminal to grab a fresh boarding pass as a memento of my visit and went to enjoy this superb terminal. Now, I've waxed lyrical about this airport in a number of previous reviews, and I still enjoy passing through here just as much as ever. Bring your walking shoes because Schiphol is massive and has plenty to see and do. Like most major airports, there's a wide range of shops and restaurants to cater for passengers of all tastes and budgets. And of course, there are smart lounges to separate business class passengers from the rest of us. Schiphol's appearance is kind of industrial, which I really like, and how can you not be impressed by an airport that has its own museum? I even liked whatever this was supposed to be. But of course, as always, as exciting as the terminal was, I'm always much more interested in the aircraft outside.
So I've spent a couple of hours here in Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. As always, it is one of my favourites, particularly here in Europe. I've had a really nice time, and if you're coming through this airport, there's plenty to do. Now, sadly, I had an aircraft change. This flight was actually booked and the whole trip was planned around flying KLM 787-10. But unfortunately, aircraft changes do happen. It has happened to me, so this flight for me will now be on board the 777-200. But that being said, it's still my first time flying KLM long haul and I'm excited to get on board. So let's go.
Yes, I know the takeoff footage was missing the beautiful spool up from those awesome GE90 engines, but I had an issue with the GoPro at the worst possible time, so my sincere apologies. Last second camera issues aside, at this point of the trip, I was grinning like a child. I was finally airborne on a long-haul KLM flight. KLM's wide-body fleet includes the Airbus A330 as well as the Boeing 747, 787 and two versions of the 777 that I'm on board, and as I mentioned in last week's review, KLM named their aircraft. This particular aircraft is named after Mount Kilimanjaro. Now I'm sure the mountain's spectacular, but are the views as good as they are on board the 777? I'll let you decide. With the curtain between economy and business class drawn, it was time for the crew to begin service on this 6-hour flight, and first up was the KLM welcome service. Bottles of water were handed out as well as refreshing towels, which was a really nice touch in economy. The towels were fairly good quality, and with the pillow and blanket provided, this flight was off to a very comfortable start. It was around an hour into the flight as we were overhead Croatia before the meal service began. Now, being the nerd that I am, I used KLM's brilliant online flight guide to check out the meal options before departure, and for this flight that was either chicken or pasta. Imagine my surprise when I was offered a choice of beef or pasta by the crew. I opted for the beef, which then turned out to be the chicken anyway. Maybe the crew member hadn't read the labels. The meal was served on a single tray, and in the little box were cheese and crackers as well as a balsamic dressing to accompany the very fresh salad starter. The chicken thigh with vegetable fried rice was by far the star of the meal and was absolutely superb, and the vanilla chocolate cake rounded off a very impressive meal, which was only really let down by having to use plastic cutlery, but that's not a very big surprise on a European airline. It took a while for the meal trays to be cleared, by which time I was eager to stretch my legs and take a look around the aircraft. This 777 can seat up to 316 passengers, with the economy cabin laid out in the increasingly common 10 abreast configuration. The cabin was in good condition and, as expected from a wide-body aircraft, offers plenty of luggage space in the overhead bins. This aircraft was not fitted with the latest LED mood lighting, and while there were reading lights found above each seat, KLM has chosen not to fit individual air vents, which is a bit of a shame. A positive, however, is that power outlets are available in economy to keep your devices charged throughout the journey. The toilets were kept very clean by the crew and had hygienic seat covers for adults, as well as a changing table for babies, and this may be a little bit odd, but I quite like the wood effect finish on the floor.
With the meal service out the way, let's take a look at the seat that you can expect to find on the 777-200 with KLM.
KLM offer both standard economy class seats as well as economy comfort on the 777, and these can be found at the front of the cabin. After a rather uncomfortable flight with Virgin Atlantic recently, I decided to pay the extra £54 and treat myself to some extra space. Whether you choose to sit in economy or economy comfort as I did, the seats are the same design, and right at the top is where you'll find an entertainment screen. The screen offers a little adjustment to provide a better viewing angle if the passenger in front reclines, and a USB port is placed just at the bottom. Now below the screen is where you'll find the literature pocket, and KLM do emphasise that this is for literature only. The reason? Like so many modern seats, you'll see that the space at the bottom of the literature pocket is exposed, so you don't want to keep any of your valuables in there. The tray table can be used in two ways. When folded in half, there's just enough space for a drink, but when the table's open fully, there's room for your meal tray or for a laptop. A small drinks holder is found on the right of the table, and I have to say that I'm a big fan of the blue detailing. It's a nice addition just to remind you this is a KLM flight. Personal storage is towards the bottom of the seat in the large seat pocket, and as you can see there's enough room in here for items that you might want close by, in my case a notebook and of course a bottle of water. The highlight of an economy comfort seat of course though is the legroom, which is absolutely superb and in my opinion well worth the money for a flight of this length. Here you can see the economy comfort seat, which does feature an adjustable headrest too, but so do the standard economy seats, and while not as spacious as mine, it did still look very comfortable. So we've established that I wasn't lacking for comfort on this flight, but what about entertainment? Well, I have to say I was very impressed by the system on board the 777. The screen was responsive and offered a very good picture quality. I also liked the interface itself, which was easy to navigate. KLM offer a selection of TV shows to cater for most tastes, and some of the more popular shows also offer multiple episodes. There's a range of music available, and there were even full-length concerts to enjoy, which I think is a really nice touch. Children of course are catered for and have their own section of content appropriate for younger viewers. Or if movies are more your thing, then you can choose from a mix of the latest Hollywood blockbusters as well as older titles. Some of my highlights on the flight included an interesting look at the future when our smartphones become self-aware. And I'm in no way ashamed to say that I really enjoyed watching Bluey, a cartoon series all about aircraft. A personal favourite on any long-haul flight for me is the in-flight map, and KLM provide a detailed and easy to use route section with key information about the journey. I was also looking forward to trying out the Wi-Fi on board, but despite several attempts to connect, I had no success. This was a little bit disappointing and did mean I was unable to update my social media followers until I arrived in Dubai. Of course, I did share images from the trip when I landed, and if you'd like to stay up to date with all of my travels and new video news, make sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram or Twitter, and of course, subscribe right here on YouTube for some exciting videos coming up. With just under 90 minutes before landing, it was time for the final service, and on my flight, economy passengers were offered a choice of drink as well as a hot snack, which, as luck would have it, was one of my favourite foods. Now I love pizza, but I'm finding it difficult to put my thoughts about this one into words. What I will say though, is that the drink was nice.
So that's it, another flight is drawing to a close. Make sure to stick around till the end of the video for my final thoughts on today's trip, but for now, enjoy the landing. So welcome to Dubai after that flight with KLM. Of course, it's another day. Obviously, was a little bit tired when I got in after that late night flight, but now, of course, is where I'll share with you my final thoughts on today's trip. Starting off at Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. As I've said before in many of my videos when traveling through there, it is one of my favorite airports in Europe. I'm a big fan of it, and connecting through there was an absolute breeze today. So I highly recommend using Schiphol Airport if you can. And then we come to the flight itself. I mentioned at the start of this video expectations may be a little bit high for this flight, but let's look objectively at what I experienced today. Starting off with the seat, and that seat was brilliant. I am glad I paid a little bit extra to select one of the economy comfort seats. As you'd have seen from the video, the legroom was excellent, it was very comfortable, so overall I wouldn't hesitate to choose the economy comfort seat again. Speaking of comfort though, one thing that I found was lacking was individual air vents. There are quite a few airlines nowadays that on long-haul aircraft don't fit these, and I think it's a big mistake because obviously the cabin can get a bit warm at times and you want that little bit of cool air just to keep your body regulated. So that was a bit of a negative for me today. The in-flight entertainment I was very impressed with. There was a good selection of content in my opinion, and the interface was really impressive too. Sadly, although it was advertised on the system and also by the crew, I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work at all, so I don't know if that was an issue with my phone perhaps, or just this aircraft today, but I really was struggling. Speaking of the crew, well, they were probably the biggest disappointment for me, and that's not to say they were bad at all. They were very pleasant, but they weren't very present in the cabin. Apart from the meal services, I very rarely saw them. There were no drinks runs throughout the flight, which was really disappointing. On a 6-hour flight, you'd expect the crew to pass through the cabin at least once or twice between meals, just to offer glasses of water perhaps, and I've seen that on many airlines, so that was a little bit disappointing today. The service they did provide though, I'd have to say that first meal was really good. A lot better than I expected. I really enjoyed that chicken meal that I had. On the flip side though, the pizza before landing, I'm a big fan of pizza and that just wasn't good at all. It tasted like soap, it was really odd. So overall, what did I think of this KLM flight to Dubai today? Well, it didn't quite tick all the boxes for me, but it was not bad by any means. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to use KLM again in future. They're still one of my favourite airlines, but maybe long haul, not quite everything I anticipated. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of KLM if you've flown before. I'd love to read your comments. And if you like this video, please do hit that thumbs up button. Of course, if you're new around here, do subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a future video. And most of all, as always, take care.